All right, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to discuss City Hall courthouses in Chicago, Illinois, back in the 1800s. The story about the evolution of the courthouses and what's been destroyed and what's still standing today. Let's dive into it. The City Hall and courthouse buildings. Chicago has had 7 courthouses since her birth in 1837, and all resided on or near the same block. We got the Saloon Building, Second City Hall, Third City Hall. Not much has been identified about how these buildings were destroyed, I think by fire, but this would be 1853, it was demolished. The Fourth City Hall here, impressive structure, was supposedly destroyed during the Great Chicago Fire in 1871. Now, then we had the Fifth City Hall, 2-story brick building, heavily constructed around a large elevated water tank, was known as the Old Rookery and served as a city hall until 1885. This one was demolished in 1885. Now we come to the Sixth City Hall. Impressive structure. What I'm seeing on the internet costs around $4 to $5 million. Getting conflicted information about when this was built. This website says the start of construction was 1882. So, as soon as the building was finished, its limitations became evident. The interior, with its high ceilings, small windows, oddly sized rooms, and long, drafty, dark corridors, made for inconvenience and discomfort. Secondly, because the building had been under construction for so long, it was already overcrowded before it was finished, and some employees had to be moved into the rented space. The inadequacies of the recently opened buildings made it evident that consideration must be given to the need for a new city hall and a new county building. So, that's a funny story. They just built it and they found out it wasn't what they needed. Considering it cost $4 to $5 million, that's pretty shady right there. The city didn't actually have the money to replace it. Though, since they just blown about $100 million in current dollars on the mess, fortunately or something, okay. In 1905, the building sank 6 inches, causing a gas pipe to rupture, which created an explosion that blew off the roof of the building. That gave the city an excuse to build a proper city hall, and the county moved into its half of the building by 1907. So, this is what they're telling about this story. Cook County Courthouse and City Hall, Chicago, Illinois, built in 1885. After it sank 6 inches, causing a gas line to rupture and blow the roof off, it was demolished 20 years after its completion. Wow, what a story. What a story they're telling us. Alright, so there it is, supposedly, being demolished. Looks like a lengthy process to do that. Okay, now the 7th City Hall, 1910 to present. Hullabird and Roche Architects awarded contract for design and planning of the Cook County building. Okay. Here's another article. We got the first county courthouse. Yep, this little building. Second, and this is the second with expansion. Now, this building was destroyed supposedly in the Great Chicago Fire in 1871. Okay, so here's the story about the 6th County Courthouse, which I was just talking about earlier, which cost $4 to $5 million. It was meant to be a temporary accommodation, but was used for nearly 15 years. So now they're saying it was meant to be temporary. Interesting. It was designed by city architect James Egan and was built with limestone and granite. It was designed in the Second Empire style. Now, here we go. The 3rd County Courthouse and City Hall, 1885 to 1911. So it actually stood, about 20 years. And then this one was built right after. The 4th County Courthouse and City Hall, under construction. And then this is the current one they've moved into, but the last one still exists in the background. You can see it back there. Let's see some more information about that one. Following this fire, Chicago commissioned a city hall and courthouse which consciously sought to surpass the one being built in Philadelphia and thus unequivocally proclaimed the recovery of the metropolis. Designed by city architect James Egan in a vaguely Second Empire style, the mammoth limestone and granite construction took nearly a dozen years to construct and did not open until 1885. Standing on a rusticated 2-story base, 35-foot tall Corinthian columns rose to an elaborate entablature embellished with allegorical figures. It cost more than $5 million, precluded the completion of the vast dome with which the architect envisioned crowning the structure. And as soon as the giant edifice was considered complete, serious structural problems were surfaced, while poor planning made for extremely difficult working conditions. Thus, between 1906 and 1911, barely more than 20 years after it was inaugurated, Egan's structure was replaced by the City Hall and County Building, a restrained limestone Beaux Arts composition. Externally, its chief decorative elements and its 75-foot high attached granite containing columns. So they're talking about the glory of the next one, which is still very impressive. So, how did they get to this construction? This $4 or $5 million construction back in that day, which is over $100 million today. Okay. Architectural competition. So back in the day, they were doing competitions. Designs of a courthouse and city hall to be erected in Chicago, Illinois, 1872. So this is supposedly why they said the 12-year period between 1872, they had the design contest, and it was finished in 1885. So just look at some of these designs. They would give out best in design 5,000, for the second best 2,000, and then third best 1,000. So they're giving out large sums of money to design buildings back then. So I want to just take a moment and scroll through these amazing designs that were put out in 1870s in Chicago. Very impressive. This one is one of my favorites. See the size of the people there? And these big, giant columns walking up the stairway. I mean, this is a massive construction feat right there, with the fountains in the front, the domes, the small domes, and then a big dome with flags, and just Elegance everywhere, statues everywhere. Actually, multiple entrances that are grand with huge giant columns. Archways that are 20 times a person size. So finally, oh, that one is impressive. Wow. A figure on top with just porthole windows there and just lots of archways, lots of viewing. Maybe you can view the heavens from the top, or the bell tower and create resonant sound for the whole neighborhood. This was $5,000 awarded to Otto H. Matt's plan. So finally we settled on this one. Still pretty impressive. Supposedly there's supposed to be a dome on top, but there wasn't. Okay. By the way, did I get to it? Oh, not yet. Okay. Sixth City Hall. Here we go. So, groundbreaking didn't start until 1875. That's about a 10-year construction. The cost for both the county courthouse and city hall became more than $4 million. Yep. Incredible. Okay. The building is a dual structure erected for the joint occupancy of the city and county. The style of architecture is the modern French Renaissance. Above the second story proper is a colonnaded double story with Corinthian columns 35 feet in height of polished main granite supporting an entablature divided into architrave, frieze, and cornice. The attic story is embellished with allegorical groups representing agriculture, commerce, peace, and plenty, the mechanic, arts, and science. The building was to have been surrounded by domes. The material used in superstructure are principally Bedford sandstone and brick. The columns, pilasters, and pillars being of main granite. The cost of the building, including all amounts, blah, blah, blah. So we have the two. It's actually like a dual, yeah, with the dome in the middle. I'm not sure if that was actually put up or not. It's hard to understand what they're saying here, but the interior is divided into 6 stories and contains 119 office rooms with 64 fireproof vaults. All the partition walls are brick and hollow tile. The floors are T-beams and hollow tile. Stairs and balusters of iron, wainscoted with colored marble and panels. The entire interior work is white oak of elaborate design and highly finished. So this is not just some crappy, shabby hut here. This is a real nice construction. This is the council chamber. They're saying there's a fire in it that happened. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. So, let's move on to... We have the Rookery Building. Now, this building still stands today. It was completed by architects Daniel Burnham. He's associated with a lot of the buildings in the World's Fair, and John Wellborn Root in 1888. So it is considered one of the masterpiece buildings and was one of the location of their offices. Oldest standing high-rise in Chicago, and a unique construction style featuring exterior load-bearing walls and interior steel frame providing transition between accepted and new building techniques. So, very impressive. Very, very impressive. This still stands today. I would love to go visit it. Oh, come on. Looking up at the Oriole store case. So, very nice. Nicely well done. It has a light court. Here's the entrance. Now, before the Rookery Building, we had the temporary city hall ready for occupancy on January 1st, 1872, right after the fire, supposedly. The design for our new building was chosen through a competition, so they got a lot of competitions going on for designs back then, interestingly. It was demolished to make way for the Rookery Building, which still stands today. And that was inside it right here. Now we have the Board of Trade building. So that's this building in the background there. We have the Rookery Building on the left and the Board of Trade building on the right. So here's some pictures of it. There's an old Board of Trade building and then a new one. So this is the new one right here, built in 1930. This was the old one. Now, this impressive tower was taken down first. I'll show you the information about that. All right, so we have the 1885 building. In 1882, construction began. It faced Jackson Street. Feet of front was structural steel and granite taken. They're saying with granite taken from Maine. It was 10 stories tall and featured a tower 320 feet tall containing a large clock bell topped with a 9-foot copper weathering vane in the shape of a ship. Construction was $2 million with 4 elevators, a great hall measuring 4 elevators. Okay, so elevators in the, is this 1880s? Okay, interesting. Great hall measuring 152 feet by 161 by 80 feet, decorated by a stained glass skylight and ornate stone balusters. Balusters. It was the first commercial building in Chicago to have electric lighting. First building in the city to exceed 300 feet in height, and was the tallest building in Chicago. All right. So here's a very interesting shot of it. Oh, no. Never mind. Okay. So blah, blah, blah. Okay. The design is for a building quite out of the beaten track in its general appearance. The main facade is on Jackson Street, crowned by a center tower 32 feet front, projecting 4 feet from the main front wall of the building and rising in height of 240 feet. Okay. One of the most imposing features in the exterior will be deeply cut panel balustrades surmounting the sides over the center of the main hall portions of the building, which will be 56 feet long and 29 feet high, braced on each side with a huge carved brackets resting against 2 large griffin figures. In the center of this tablet, there will be a group of 9 mammoth statue figures in different attitudes representing trade and commerce with various elements of art and agriculture, all cut in bold relief from solid granite. These will adorn both the Pacific Avenue and Sherman Street fronts. There will be several other prominent figures cut in granite in different parts of the building. This is the trading floor in session. A large hallway and commodus vestibule are first passed through, from which there are to be 2 imposing granite stairways leading to the main hall floor. On each side, street, and from the court there will be a similar but less pretentious entrances, together with 2 commodious flights of iron stairs and 4 large elevators leading to the top of the building. The office portion is to be 9 stories high. Okay, the main exchange. Very intricate and beautiful. Wow. Let's see. The Board of Trade Hall is to be very elaborate in style. The walls between the windows will be relieved by large granite columns with rich arched covered cornice above, reaching to the ceiling, which is 70 feet from the hall floor. This will be crowned by ceiling lighting 80 by 80 feet, which is stained glass and will be set up in a clove story rising 85 feet above the floor level. The building will be fireproof in all its central parts. The doors are casings are to be hardwood, mahogany, walnut, maple, and oak. And the walls and ceilings frescoed in oil and entirely new and artistic designs. The hall, additionally lightened by very high windows, has a colonnade running completely around it on the sides. The beautifully molded pillars, iron and marble castings standing well out, and the north where the rostrum is being set in the wall. The larger and more important of these supports, as well as ornaments, are fully 85 feet high and 3 feet and a half in diameter. The richly foliated and capped shafts, not remotely suggesting rows of forest kings of the palm order. The columns rise in the marble bases corresponding in finesse and durability with the high marble wainscoting. The mural, allegorical paintings, and other decorations, some details of which have yet to be determined, will be as appropriate and artistic as the talent of connoisseurs can make them. Wow. It just goes on and on and on. Let's talk about the stained glass. It's a noble hall. The types of wood they use: hardwoods of enlivening color, ash, butternut, cherry, while floors of all passageways and corridors in the first 2 floors will be laid in tiles of marble. So no expenses, all expenses paid, nothing worried about. Wow. So this is incredible building. The cornerstone of the new Chamber of Commerce was laid with appropriate ceremonies, and since the walls of the Magnificent Building have gone up with marvelous rapidity, but this new Temple of Trade temple they're calling it now, is on such a grand scale that it would be another year before it was brought to completion and ready for the machinery of commerce. So this is written in 1883. They're calling it a temple. The new building of which is a cut is here given, fronts on Jackson Street and extends back to Van Buren. It is in the modern Gothic style, built on Fox Island granite. The grand tower is 32 feet front and is 300 feet high. The masonry extending 225 feet and the toe remaining 75 feet of iron, and the height of 225 feet. There will be a clock dial on each of the 4 sides of the tower, 12 feet in diameter. So, incredible design for that clock tower. Magnificent temple. So, I'm talking about polished red granite, square columns, blah blah blah. So, very impressive. Another article from 1885, a wonderful magnet, a building that attracts Chicago's millions. So then, fear it will fall. Granite dropped from board of the trade's leaning tower. So, there was a ship on top and they took it down. So, let's see. This is the building when they took it down. This is another picture of it. So when did they take that down? I think in the late 1890s. Okay. Chicago Board of Trade with the clock tower removed about 1929. Okay. Board of Trade. Let's see here. Where can we find? 1894 is when they took that down. As the clock tower was removed, the tallest building in Chicago record was then held by the Masonic Temple, built okay. All right. So, Chicago Board of Trade building. This was the first commercial building in Chicago to have electric lighting and the first building in the city to exceed 300 feet, making it the tallest building in Chicago. Demolished in 1929 and replaced with a much larger Board of Trade building. Which is this one here. Okay. So. More details about how grand it was. I love this shot of it right here. You can see the very beautiful statues on top of this amazing entranceway. Okay. Board of Trade statues, commerce, left, and agriculture right. In 2005, they were installed as part of the La Salle Street Plaza. The truly controversial aspect of the building was the heavy, highly ornamented masonry attic and mansard roof, which rose to the height of 140 feet and enclosed the office floors that Boynton had positioned, ringing the hall skylight in a manner similar to how Post had designed the Newark Produce Exchange. Was replaced. So that's a really great shot of the tower. Here's some other designs that were considered during the time, which we went over earlier. Okay. More glory shown. Another just magnificent construction. We have the Masonic building I mentioned briefly earlier. Let's see the history on that. Masonic Temple, built in 1892, and from 1895 to 1920 is the tallest building in Chicago. Now this one was demolished in 1939, so stood for about less than 50 years. Imagine taking that down. I mean, that's a big feat. We have one more interesting building. The Montgomery Tower. With the beautiful, it's like Diana statue or so. Montgomery Tower building. Okay. Beautiful look. Oh wow! Look at that. very ornate looking columns at the very tip of that tower. Okay, here was the county courthouse right before the fire in 1871. So supposedly this was all destroyed by fire, though maybe it wasn't even built out of wood. So how did it all burn down? The fire must have been very, very, very hot, almost ungodly hot. Or did they use direct energy weapons? Because I think it was an attack on the previous civilization. Here was that county courthouse built in 1895, just before, after, it was the seventh one they were talking about, right after the sixth one got destroyed, which still stands today. But the Montgomery ward, I want to get back to that real quick. Montgomery ward, okay. It still stands today. They just took down that tower. This impressive tower right here. The 22.5 foot weather vane was set in October 20th, 1900. Okay. So in 1922, they removed that tower. It used to be a great lookout point, apparently. It says, taken at Montgomery Ward & Co. Tower, the highest studio in the world. I have been here. Tower studio. People, I wish I could go up there. But you can't today. Following the removal of a pyramid top in sculpture. So there you have it. Those are some interesting buildings in Chicago. Some of them still stand today. Some have been destroyed, like the 6th County Courthouse, which I was talking about. I think that was one of the most impressive ones. I mean, 20 years. Apparently, they just put it up and it was like, oh, we don't want that anymore. Doesn't fit our needs. Like, who builds a building, spends $5 million or $100 million of today's money, and then just it already is not what they want? That's crazy. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day. Peace.